Well, hello everyone. Um, Welcome to another Wednesday, and hopefully this time we are going to talk to Cheeky Joe, my co-host. I haven't heard if she's going to join yet. Yep, she's going to be there in 5 minutes. So a few people have been asking me what's been going on because you've been so quiet lately. Well, that's true. And the reason is that, well, there are a couple of reasons. The main reason actually is that um, my mom passed away like a year and a day ago, and well, her house is being sold, or my parents' house is being sold, depending on how you look at it. And that means that we had to sort things out, clean things out, and tomorrow will be the transfer to the new owners. And well, it's not like I have a lot of space, and I'm also not very good at letting go immediately. So I guess that the last year I've been using it to familiarize myself with what she left behind and if I wanted to take it with me or not. So I do feel for my brother though. It's been a little bit weird because he has been tested positive for corona. I've been tested negative. So we have been trying to avoid one another, and of course we are wearing those facial masks, the really good ones. And one other reason I had to wear those face masks, which brings me to number two, is I had an allergic reaction due to being at that house for so many days in a row. And actually, I ended up in the hospital last week. So I've been careful ever since. Has been working a lot better, but you can still see like the marks on my face as a result of wearing that mask the entire time. So fortunately, the house is huge. It's actually it's a double house, and as a result, I've been able to basically avoid my brother and keep the distance. And well, I can tell you, I've doubled, maybe even tripled the distance between the two of us. Uh, Kept the windows open, all the stuffs, just so I won't get infected. Because, um, yeah, I'm not looking forward to that. Anyway, when it comes to speaking out, I had my fair share of, you know, having to do so again, especially when it came to having the allergic reaction. So, what happened was I came from a physical therapist and I was like, oh, I'm going to get a little bit of food. I'm in a traffic jam anyway, so I wanted to get some nuggies. I did actually. And then I was eating them while driving back home, which was like 5, maybe 10 minutes. And then when I was eating the third one, things went haywire. My throat got swollen. And I know that whenever that happens, I usually need to throw up because, well, I can't swallow. So, you know, well, that's not a good thing when driving. So I pulled over on the hard shoulder. Yeah, it's a completely different word compared to Dutch. And anyway, yeah, I think it took about 15 or 20 minutes, and then the tow truck showed up, and they said, "Well, nothing is wrong with my car. It's me." And then they called an ambulance, and so they actually took me to the hospital. I couldn't get my own medication because I couldn't, even though I didn't have to swallow them, I didn't accept them either. So, and they gave me an IV with medication, and then I had to stay in the hospital for a couple of hours. And as a result, besides losing my voice on and off. Um, well, the result was actually that despite being there, things didn't improve much. So I did feel better, but I still had very, very, very high blood pressure. And um, more importantly, I still couldn't swallow. So the next day, I said to my family doctor, the GP, I said, I still can swallow. So help me, please. Because I was becoming very dehydrated because I couldn't even take a sip of water or anything. Now, by the time I got there, things had actually improved, which was awesome. So she sent me to the hospital, which of course took a number of hours again. And by that time, I was actually able to eat. The swelling had gone. And I told them that I had asked the doctor at the ER to listen to me. I said, every time I try and have a sip, it's like, first of all, I can swallow, but it's like this sound. It's like this burping sound, like when something is clogged, and then a bubble of air just goes alongside, and you hear the whoop, whoop. It's just a certain sound. I can't really make it. So I've been smart. I recorded the sound, just like I'd taken pictures, so people could actually see what I looked like during the time I had the allergic reaction, and I really had a swollen, puffy face. But the sound wasn't very audible. But the GP actually, she said, "Okay, I hear you." And then in the hospital, they shoved a little tube, little camera down my nose into my throat, and well, they could see that um, things were a little bit, um, how do I say it? The veins were a little bit swollen, so that explains why I was still losing voice. And there is Terry, um, and well, and there is Cheeky Joe without the camera. Anyway, when it came to speaking out, I they actually said that next time I need to get that research done straight away. And even though I said so, they didn't listen straight away, but I got it done the next day. So that's good. So I'm going to invite Terry to here. And I can tell you, we had a good time earlier today on Clubhouse, which was kind of cool. And you were talking about routines.
hmm Yeah.
So,
So every day there's an opportunity for you to take action and achieve success. And one of those things is having a powerful daily routine. And I shared a little bit about that today, and it was taken from one of my books called Morning Routines. And man, it was a truly powerful conversation. We had some good shares. I know you shared some of your ideas and thoughts about that as well too. So thank you for mentioning that. Yeah, routines are powerful.
yeah, I loved it. And it's that I've been so busy because I actually was so inspired that I really wanted to do an Instagram live straight away. But, with everything going on, it just slipped through my mind. I mean, you actually noticed that I was late going on live. And actually, now I thought I planned it, the broadcast, because I already had shared it on Instagram and all the other social media. And then I figured out before I drove off, like, oh my God, I haven't scheduled it. And even worse, I don't have my phone. So it was like, okay, I need to rush. So my car is still packed with all this stuff. I don't know if you heard it before, but um, I'm basically emptying my mom's house. So there's a lot of stuff in my car, still a lot of stuff at that house.
Mhm.
And tomorrow will be the transfer to the new owner. So it was a little bit of a rush job last moment
Mhm.
because I need to take my time to really think things through before I decide, okay, this is what I want to keep and this is what I do not want to keep. I mean, you can only so much do with memories. So
I can relate to that. And here's how. So I've literally been traveling my entire life. So I've never really had one place to call home. So I've always packed up about every 2, 3, 4 years. I think the longest I ever stayed in one place might have been 5 years, but even within that 5 years, I still moved like 3 or 4 times. But
wow.
I was in one place, well, no, I actually wasn't. I was in 3 different places. So I can't even say that. So I'd literally spent my entire life traveling around, and everywhere it's kind of an old George Carlin joke, but everywhere you go, you take a little bit of your stuff. I'm going to take a little bit of stuff here. I'm going to take a little bit of stuff there. And I've always found myself that no matter where I am, there I am. And I always take a little bit of my stuff with me everywhere that I go. And you always feel comfortable when you have just a little bit of your stuff with you, don't you?
Yeah, that's so true. I always said I can live from my backpack basically. I need 1 square meter and then I'm happy. So and actually I'm not living in a huge place right now. And that's why, you know, all of a sudden being confronted with all this stuff, her legacy basically, and my dad's legacy, and what he had in his toy store, and more importantly, he had these well, there are glass negatives of views of the city during the 1940s till 60s, so actually also during World War II. um, he had collected all that stuff, and he actually had those cards printed too, so that's kind of cool.
Mhm.
And one of the things I really wanted to do is make a catalog showing all the different pictures that are out there. And well, the range actually goes until 5,000. So, and now it's like, oh my God, I've got all this stuff here, and I don't want all this stuff here because I'm used to like you said, use to being somewhere, going somewhere, and just taking my iPad with me and my iPhone, and that's about it.
Mhm.
So um
And sometimes that works. So I can tell you 100% that I've been in some places where that was enough. And then I've been in some places like, man, I got to take this, I got to take that, and then whenever you're packing that suitcase or you're packing that bag or whatever it is that you take with you, it's always like, man, is this enough? No, it's not enough. It's never enough. And it's one of those things that, man, I've gotten to places like, why did I not bring that? I should have brought that. Why didn't I bring that? It's just kind of one of those things that I sit there and I look at like a floor full of stuff, a bed full of stuff or whatever. And it's like, that's important. That's not important. You're cool. I don't like you. And, and it's all these different things where you have to make a choice of like, what is it that I'm going to take with me on this trip, whether it's a road trip, whether you're moving. And I can tell you 100% that I have tried to put stuff in my truck, my car, a U-Haul, whatever the case may be, wherever it was that I was at. And it's like, this is going, that's going, and there's always that question of, why are you taking that? Because it's important. That's why. It's
yes.
mine. You have to have it.
Yeah, so lately when I've been traveling, the first thing of course were my crutches.
uh,
And I skipped on getting any suitcase with me, and my medication, of course, and then all the equipment, to be able to record wherever I was. So,
mhm.
um, just for a sec,
Yeah. Yeah. I
Joe
think
is
they,
trying to get in, but she, for some reason, it won't let me get her in. So maybe it's just the name.
yeah, it could be a
So,
StreamYard thing because one of my cameras, so I'm on my second camera here. I have 2 cameras set up here. One of them wouldn't work, the other one did. So it might even just, maybe StreamYard's just acting up tonight because I had an issue with connecting one of my cameras tonight.
yeah. Okay. So she says that she can hear us, but nothing's working. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what we've noticed. um. So, do you have any suggestions, Terry? What we can do?
So it depends on what camera that Joe has. If it's a laptop, maybe connecting a webcam to it. If there's a webcam, maybe a different one. I mean, I don't. maybe using a phone, maybe using a tablet.
She's using a phone.
Phone, well, use a different device. Use a laptop, or use something that has a webcam to it. Oftentimes, phones are very finicky, especially out there. I don't really like using phones unless I'm doing like an Instagram live stream. But with StreamYard, phones and StreamYard are very interesting, and I'll just leave it at that.
Well, I'd probably say, shut down your phone and restart it, from
Mhm.
scratch.
That's another recommendation. Restart the phone, because maybe there's an update. Maybe it's been on too long. Maybe it's a RAM issue. I mean, it could be a number of different things. Oftentimes, when I'm experiencing maybe it's the app that needs to be updated as well too. So oftentimes, when the app needs to be updated and it has not been updated, turn the phone off, turn it back on, let the app update, and go from there.
Yeah, that's so true. That's so true. So going back, because and she's left again. I think she's going to restart the phone, or maybe find some other thing. Um, well, I shared a little something about speaking out. You actually, you know about what happened last week when I had that allergic reaction and I had to pull over on the hard shoulder.
Mhm.
So yeah, it was kind of interesting to see how the ER doctors didn't respond straight away, and they just let me be there for a couple of hours, and I basically had to come up with everything myself, also
Mhm.
including the suggestions of, do you maybe have ice chips or something, because that might help.
Mhm.
And yeah, that was a little bit weird. So the next day, when I still couldn't swallow in the morning, I called my family doctor, my GP, and she referred me back to the hospital. So then I had to go back in the afternoon, but by that time I could actually swallow. But
Mhm.
you know, I'd been smart. I'd been recording everything on my phone. So there was the shot of me looking the way I did, all puffy, but also the sound, because I'd said to the ER doctor, there's this sound, but you can't hear it unless you're close to me.
Mhm.
And I was kind of surprised, but the iPhone picked up on it.
Mhm.
So, and that was amazing. So, have you encountered things like that, that you felt like you needed to speak out, and you needed a couple of times to get things, get people to believe you?
Yeah, well, I'm nothing like believe me kind of a thing, but yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different stories with that, but here's one, and this is kind of a scary little story. It's one of those things where you're sitting there on a doctor's bed and you have an IV stuck in you, right? And then you
Mm-hmm.
see this little bubble form inside this thing. And you're like thinking in the back of your head, man, if that bubble gets in me, that could stop my heart. I could have a heart attack if that bubble gets in there, because I didn't know any better. Here I am, I'm a teenager, right? And I'm in the doctor's bed. I got this IV in me, and I see this bubble form, and it's going and it's going. And I'm sitting here in the back of my head, like, oh my goodness, should I yell? Should I scream? Should I say, "Hey, come in here"? And it's like I was stuck, and it was one of those things to where I probably should have spoke out. I was overthinking it, maybe underthinking it, maybe all the above, and I didn't say anything, but nothing happened. I'm still here. I didn't have a heart attack or nothing like that. But it was one of those moments where it was like, oh my goodness, I was sitting here catastrophizing the end of my life, laying on bed with this bubble going through this IV all the way up into my arm, and it turned out to be nothing.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I can imagine that you were thinking something similar along those lines. When I was there, the first hour I was okay. Was going in some sort of meditational state, but my phone had been left in the car, and so had my wallet. So when they took me to the ambulance, I said, "Do me a favor, give me my phone, please. Make sure that they give me my phone." But they didn't. So they towed my truck, my car away, including with the phone and my wallet. So fortunately, I had my driver's license with me. That
Mhm.
was about it. So there I was. I couldn't call anyone. I couldn't say anything. And then it was like, okay. I need to find that button when you can call for assistance. So the first hour I was pretty relaxed, and then at some point I was like, okay, I've got that thing in my arm, and then on top of that is the machete for the blood pressure, for measuring the blood pressure, and of course that was pushing against. Um, uh, well, we call it a canoe. I don't know what the word is in English, for the IV drip. I was
Mhm.
like, okay, this is not working. So I was looking at all those numbers, and at some point I was like, waking up again, feeling like, okay, I feel good again. So I didn't feel like lying down on that hospital bed anymore. I was like, I want to do something. I want to walk. I want to use the restroom. I said I want to use the restroom, but they're not letting me. It was like, oh my god. So by the time they showed up, I was actually sitting on the bed, and I was like, okay, I'm hooked up everywhere, and how am I going to do this? I was at the point of taking off all this stuff, which of course they wouldn't have liked, because they were measuring my heart rate and all that stuff. But it was like, okay, they just letting me leave there, and didn't feel good. But
Mhm.
well, that's a different story.
Mhm.
So
Maybe you meant tube, like canoe tube.
yes, that one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
tube. Yeah, it's a
yes,
tube.
yeah.
I
So
was Googling it. While you were talking there, I had to figure out how to spell it because I didn't know how to spell it, and then I like typed a whole bunch of things until I finally found something that made sense, and
mhm,
it's tube.
yeah. I see Bonnie is watching too. So
Bonnie.
good to see you, Bonnie.
She is all snuggled up. She's snuggled in. She's got her blankie, her computer, and she's snug as a bug. But don't
Oh.
forget to smash that like button and share out
Yeah,
the stream.
I totally love it. I can see that Joe's backstage, but I can't get her
Mhm.
on. It just won't let me. It's kind of annoying what's happening.
That's
Uh,
interesting.
yeah, I can only edit her name. I can kick her from the studio, and I can ban her from the studio. That's about it.
Hmm.
So
Hey,
yeah, are
so
these
so so let me ask you something. Are you on your phone?
me?
Yes.
Oh,
Or are you streaming from your computer?
I'm using my iPad.
Your iPad. Okay. Because here's how I normally do it. What I usually do is I will hover over top of their image and it will say add to stream. So you on an iPad, you physically have to touch that. So here's what you can do. Tap on her image and see if it says add to the stream or bring to the stage or
No,
bring.
that's the thing. I normally I can, but this time I can't. And
Huh.
and she says there's actually a problem with her camera and all that stuff. So that
I
might
didn't-
be the reason. I don't know, because
Awesome.
I could, if edit you to the stream as well, or add
Yeah.
you to the stream.
Yeah. Well, welcome to the Lady Lexi and the Terry Thompson Show. We're here to motivate and I'm just playing.
Well, the one who snuggled up wants to join too.
Ooh,
So
Bonnie.
yeah.
We
So
had a great clubhouse room tonight, so we brought the energy, brought the house down. Had a few people share their images and this, that, and the other. So we was talking about sharing the unbreakable picture, and so we was able to talk about this right here a little bit tonight. The I
yeah.
am unbreakable, my unbreakable story. So we did share that in Clubhouse tonight. And we had a few people that kind of shared their little story right there. Had a couple more people commit and say, "Yeah, I'm going to share mine. I'm unbreakable too." So it was amazing, man. We got to be able to share that out tonight on Clubhouse. And each and every day, we're working really hard on getting that message out there, and letting the world know that you too are unbreakable. And I know you shared yours, and we love that. And we always tell everybody, it's free promotion. It really is. It's free promotion for you because it's one of those things that when you tell everybody, nobody will ever be able to match your energy. Nobody will ever be able to match the things that you work on. Because Lexi, look, I'm telling you right now, I've seen you work your tail off over the last year, and people will not be able to match that. They won't be able to match that. They really won't be able to match your energy, your smile, the things that you bring to the table. And, it's one of those things that I can relate to that. You can tell everybody all day long, do this, do that, go here, go there. And sometimes it misses its mark. It truly does. And you talk about speaking out. We can speak out all that we want. We're motivated, we're inspired, and that's what the world sees. That's what they believe. That's what they think. But there's a difference. We're committed.
Yes.
And there's a
We are.
difference to that. I'm not always motivated. I'm not always inspired. Believe me, when I get there and I go on Clubhouse, I'll give you an example. Sometimes I get on Clubhouse and I'm like, here we go. And then I take a deep breath and I'm like, I don't know what's going to happen, because sometimes I bring it, sometimes I don't. It's one of those things. But tonight was one of those nights where it was very special. The energy somehow in the room was just elevated. It was lifted. The people that was there in that room tonight brought out the best in me. And I was grateful for that. I was thankful for that. And sometimes you need to feed off other people's energy, because I remember you sharing with me, the power of speaking out, you wanting to run your show. And sometimes people show up, sometimes people don't. And sometimes when you're there all by yourself, that shows your level of commitment. It truly does. It shows your level of commitment, because the thing is that your message, your voice, the things that you are doing is going to connect with the right person at the right time when they need it the most.
Yeah, that's so true. That's so true. And I remember having a talk. Um, it was a few months back, and it was about coaching and whether people actually listen or not. And I shared that when it comes to my clients, they might listen, but they might not act on it. And of course, I have different type of clients, with lots of mental problems. And right now, one in particular is having all these problems when it comes to addiction,
Mhm.
and also being, I'd say, broken down by the environment.
Mhm.
So, and seeing him go up and down and then up and down again, and at the end of December, I was like, yeah, he's getting it. He was really standing up for himself, getting back to him old. And he's got his own company with his own employees, and he knows how to nail it. And then, but that's the business side. And then when it comes to him personally, that was a whole different story. And now, having seen that he finally said, okay, I'm going to quit this. And quite honestly, what triggered that was realizing what was happening. And then when he said, we need to quit to that partner, she actually smashed all the windows. So
Mm.
he told me, and I was like, whoa, that's, you don't hear that too often. I've heard
Mhm.
it before, actually. So then he was like, okay, I'm done. And then, of course, she managed to get her way back in again. And that's because he's yearning for that attention and that
Mm.
love. And, when you don't have it when growing up, it's basically like a mindset. All I want is those arms around me and feel hugged and feel loved. And, so when this weekend he was really going for it again, she actually just showed up at his house. I was like, oh, you suddenly forgot everything you said to me. Well, maybe I need you to need to remind you what's going on, because the moment she showed up again, you could actually see him going downhill.
Mhm.
And it was good because today he was finally eating again. He started eating again yesterday. Um, Everyone, and that's so cool. In the last couple of months, people are actually sharing, we like you the way you are. And we didn't know who you were because his partner was actually isolating him. Oh, there's Bunny. Going to add her to the stream. Hi, Bunny. And um, that's of course what happens when when you deal with people with narcissistic personalities. They try to Elaine, to Elaine, no, to help me, Bunny. Here, you know what I want to say.
He
Isolate. An alienate.
No, I think she's trying to say alienate.
Alienate or
Alienate.
isolate.
Thank you. From your surroundings and your friends and your family, and that's actually what was happening. But if you are not aware of it, and it was heartbreaking to realize that he was being broken down in tiny little pieces, and he said, "I don't get it. Why?" In the end, when it all seemed good, he was almost like, "Okay, I'm letting her back into my life." She is suddenly lashing out at me, and I was like, "Oh, you don't understand. Well, she needs to keep you under her thumb." So any of you have had experiences with those kind of um, people, and especially how they are treating other people?
Yeah. So I have experience dealing with some narcissistic people. And the thing is that I always twisted it and actually made it about them because that's what they want.
Mm-hmm.
But I made the person take accountability for his own wants, needs, and desires. And I shifted it to the point to where it was a conversation of wants, needs, and desires. And once I made the person accountable for certain things, because at the end of the day, they want that low hanging fruit, that easy action, because it is really all about them. So, okay, you want to be it all about you? I will make it all about you, but I want you to take ownership in that. And I want you to take action. And this is what I want you to do. And what I ended up doing is I ended up celebrating those wins, those victories. I focused more on the action, the victories, the success versus the person and the things that they wanted, needed, desired. And the thing is that what they wanted, needed, desired, although were three completely different things, it was really more of self-fulfilling than it was about any want, need, or desire. It was self-fulfilling. So I was like, okay, once I ultimately dug down into what was that iceberg thing, that thing that was up underneath, what the person really wanted, needed, and desired, it was really a matter of just being celebrated, getting that attention. Like what you said, sometimes you want that attention, you want that hug, you want that thing that you're lacking within your life. And when you get it, you can't get enough of it. But
Yeah,
I made the person take action in order to get it.
yeah. It's the hard thing is, yes, he was taking action, but when you're an addict, hey, yes, yes, there she is.
Hi. So sorry about that. Really sorry. Oh
The
my God.
technical issues have been resolved.
I don't know if you know,
Oh,
but she tried to get on like 4 or 5 times, and she just couldn't make
nightmare.
it. But to continue what Terry said, yeah, it's true. The accountability is so important that they actually, and here was the thing. I am one of the few people he's telling the truth, but still he's also lying to me. And that's the thing with addicts.
Mhm.
They are good at telling themselves stories and feeling sorry for themselves. And but he's taking a turn, and I actually visited him a couple of months back. I stayed with him for 2 weeks, and I actually said, well, if I need to pick you up and come over there again, I'll do it. Just to make sure that someone is keeping an eye on him, because you need surroundings to support you, and if you don't have supporting surroundings, that's really hard.
Mhm.
So Bunny, you probably have something to add to this as well, I suppose.
Yeah, so I was in a relationship with someone who was definitely narcissistic and clinically psychotic. Um, gave birth to his son, my oldest, and obviously did not know any of that going into the relationship or when I got pregnant. Um, and it was quite a shock the first time he lashed out towards me. It was a fairly, oh, not going to sugarcoat, extremely violent situation. And my oldest son is pretty much lucky to be here. But the really interesting part about it was after it happened, I go, you made me do the, he pulled the whole, I'm so sorry, I'll never do it again. You know, that whole spiel. They make movies about that stuff. It's so cliche anymore. But the part was like, I just love you so much. You made me do that. I was afraid, blah, blah, blah. Like all these things he started throwing at me about how I triggered that behavior in him. And here's the interesting thing. It all started because he picked a fight with me, like an argument about, I was supposed to go to my first prenatal exam the next morning. And he was picking an argument with me about something about the doctor. And so I grabbed a pair of headphones and walked in the kitchen and sat in the chair like, I'm not listening to this. And so he yanked me up out of the chair because I wasn't giving in to his temper tantrum, for lack of better words. And so, yeah, he carried on for about 7.5 hours and then blamed it all on me. That was his thing. And I was such in shock about the whole thing. And then I had to go to the doctors and explain to them what had happened. But I I lied about it. I was like, oh yeah, I ran into the kitchen shop, like making shit up because I was so, like I said, in shock and terrified about what had happened and what was going to happen if I had no idea I was not thinking straight. Let's just put it that way. And, but it was interesting to me that he definitely tried to turn the whole thing around on me. And that's unfortunately what a lot of people who are narcissistic do, is that they can't take accountability. You can't tell them that they've done anything wrong. There's a lot of gaslighting involved a lot of the times. I didn't even know what gaslighting was back then. And my mind immediately went into how do we fix this mode? So when I came back home and everything was totally chill, it was kind of like, oh, okay, maybe that was a fluke. It should have been my sign to go running the opposite direction, obviously. And again, in my mind, I was like, how do I help fix this? And I did end up leaving him when my son was about 4 months old, because he pulled something, did something, he came after me. And I was like, oh, we're not doing this. I'm not, no, not especially with the baby in the house, And so I picked up the baby and ran probably 16 blocks to the nearest friend's house in my bare feet just to get away from him. And that was pretty much the end of that. But the whole time leading up to that, after that, when we went to court, all of these things, it was all about, well, she made me, and I'm like, how did you think I made you behave like that? you know? So it definitely screwed with my head for a while. I'm not even going to lie about it. It was hard to trust people for a while. Because the way that this came out of the blue, there weren't any warning signs that I noticed at that time. And so it made me kind of hesitant to be around certain people because I didn't know, was this person going to lash out? Was that person going to lash, kind of thing. So anyways, that was my most standout experience with someone who, again, he ended up diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder, I think it's called, and was also told that he was clinically diagnosed with psychosis. And so neither one of us has seen him in 20-something years. I don't know. My son's about to be 22, so cut ties and went our separate ways.
Kudos to you. And I do have some more questions, but first I'm going to let Jo chime in because I'm pretty sure that she has a story of her own to share when it comes to narcissistic personalities and partners. You want to share?
Yeah, well, I'll share. I was 21 at the time, and I thought I met my future husband. Everything, 6 months down the line, everything was going fine. Relationship was good. He was loving, always bringing me flowers, and And then I found out I was pregnant. And he just sort of changed. It was like, well, hard to explain really. He was very violent. I ended up in hospital 3 times. He punched me so much that I had to give birth to my son at 8 months. Sorry.
It's okay.
At 8 months, he passed away in my arms. He lived for an hour. And they make you believe that it's your fault. They turn everything around, and it's like, you're the bad person, you're the horrible one, you started this, you did this. And he just used to, and every time he'd say, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. And I used to sit there and go, oh, it's my fault, it's my fault. Oh, you know, and you say, I really love you. And then it'd be all nice and comforting and everything like that. And I had to go to hospital on my own. I was there on my own with my son. I didn't tell my family. I didn't let them know that abuse was going on. I hid it from everyone. I was just in this like bubble where I was just, the anxiety and everything. I was just, you know, in my head, it was my fault. It was my fault. I had to blame myself, and everything was my fault. And the last time he beat me up, I went to hospital. I had 6 broken ribs. I had a fractured eye socket. I had bite marks, cigarette burns, and it was the lovely policewoman that literally got me to see sense, basically. And they wanted me to press charges, but I kept saying no, 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 because in my head it was my fault. It wasn't his, and everything like that. And one of my friends started coming around, and she literally dragged me out of the place when he went to work. She went, I don't care. You can kick and scream, punch me. She said, you're leaving. You need to leave now. You're coming away from this. You cannot live in an environment like this. She said, because otherwise it will be you next, and you won't be here to tell a story. And
Yeah.
it was, you know, and I didn't trust people. It took a long time for me to find anyone, having that trust around people. But I can go and visit my son because he's buried at a cemetery. So at least I know I can, you know, I have that thing. I can see him still. But it's, and obviously as my sister, it happened to her, and unfortunately she never survived. She was murdered by her partner, and she was 11 weeks pregnant. And I was angry with myself because I never see the signs of her being abused, because we hide it so well. We don't, I don't know if it's the same as you, Bonnie, but you sort of, when you see people, when you was going through it, you was like, oh yeah, you sort of bury it so deep inside that you don't show what's actually going on. And that's why we make it look so good that we're fine, that everything's okay. But eventually I did get to tell my family, and my dad and brother actually went looking for him, and they literally beat the crap out of him, excuse my French. And my dad and brother warned him, if they ever see him anywhere near the area, anywhere, he won't be living to the next day. So it was just, you know, and I was obviously, when that happened, I was a bit angry with him, because I said, I don't want you getting into trouble due to, but you know, I think I was so angry with what he'd done. And when they found out that my little boy, you know, it was just horrible, literally horrible. And there's so much of it going on, and it's, sometimes we can see the sign, sometimes you can't. As I said, we hide it very well. We're very good at hiding it, you know. These things
But
we
the
thought of.
question, of course, is, are you hiding it on purpose, or do you actually start to believe that it is your fault? So that's why
I did actually believe it was my fault. At some point, I was believing it was me. Maybe I was triggering him off, you know, or something I was doing that you know, it was wrong and it was triggering him. And you do. I don't know if you believed that you was always in the wrong, Bonnie. Eventually you get to that point where you thought it was you at some point.
I'm going to be honest with you. I had to make peace with and cut ties with that stuff. I was also 21. I definitely hid it from, I mean, I fooled the doctors. I walked right out of that hospital and they should have detained me. Because I'm pretty sure here where we are, there's, and don't quote me on this, but if you're in a situation like that and you continue to go back and you're pregnant, as you're basically endangering your own child. And I'm pretty sure they can physically remove you from a situation. Now, again, I don't know the specifics and all the details and all of that. I've just heard things like that. And I'm sure, I don't think I walked around like consciously blaming myself for what happened, but because of the way I grew up and because of previous experiences with my parents, I had nobody I felt like I could turn to that would actually help get me out of the situation. And so for me, it was more keep the peace, make the best of it until I could figure something else out.
Yeah.
And I find it interesting. This is like a little side note, but I find it interesting that these acts of violence were all triggered after pregnancy. And I almost feel like that's one of those situations where, especially if you're dealing with somebody who has narcissistic tendencies or personality disorder, whatever label you want to put on that, they're excited at first, and then it sets in that they're gonna be sharing you with somebody else.
Yes.
And they internally panic and start to lash out. And I don't know if it's because I'm not like a licensed doctor or therapist. I coach, but this is not my specialty, but it would make sense to me.
Yeah. That's what I thought. Wow.
That it's not like they have a specific intention or they're planning to lash out. It's like a threat to their survival almost. And it's like an instant reaction. That's really how I felt. I was in another situation similar to that. That was literally one experience. And I was like, get the F out. I am not doing this again.
Oh God, same me. I would never, ever.
I was like, I've done this before and we're not, you can leave. And luckily I had people in my life at that point that I felt comfortable telling. Some of them believed me, some of them didn't, because some of them knew him before they knew me, kind of situation. And I was like, I don't need to be friends with you.
That is the problem. Yeah.
I was like, I don't need to be around any of you. And so I really relied on the people that did believe me, and in order to kind of enforce that distance with this person. So like I said, I don't, to answer your question, I don't remember at this point if I was consciously blaming myself. I know there was a lot of what did I do, which is basically a byproduct of blaming yourself. But I also, at that point in time, at that age, did not understand.
That's the thing. The same as me. We're still young and naive, and
I did not understand that you don't control somebody else. Like I'm responsible for me, and only like the stuff I'm teaching my kids. Like you're responsible for being kind of compassionate, but you're not responsible for people's reactions to you. Like I'm responsible for me, and I hear my kids saying responsible for being kind of compassionate, but you're not responsible for people's reactions to you. Like I'm responsible. Thank you. I didn't really understand any of that. I wasn't taught that growing up. I've been very adamant about teaching that to my kids, all of them. But that doesn't give you an excuse to be nasty to people either. Just because you're
No,
not
no, that's
responsible
right,
for
no.
their reaction doesn't mean you can be an a-hole to everybody you
No.
meet.
But I mean, it has made me a lot stronger, obviously, going through that. And after losing my little boy, having him, like, it did make me a stronger person when I actually got out of the relationship. And I was lucky to meet my late husband, because he was a gentleman. He was everything I could wish for. You know, he was everything, everything to me. So, and I've always taught my children, because I've got a son that's 27, and I've always like, because I told him everything, that what my partner did to me when he killed the baby, everything. I told them everything. They know everything. My kids had to tell them, because I didn't want them, obviously, because going to the grave, well, oh, who's this? No, this is your baby brother. What, like, a long time ago. But I actually told my children, I sat down and explained to them what I went through and everything. And I've always said to them, I said, there's learn respect, always say please and thank you. It will get you a long way. I said, but I've said to any of my kids, I don't ever lay a hand. I said, and my son, I said, and he's brilliant anyway. He's gay, so he's like with a woman. But I've always drummed it into them, just and if you know someone that's going through it, try and help them the best you can. If you can get them out of that situation. I said,
True.
It's hardest thing. I mean, I've helped 3 people. I told you, didn't I, Lexi? I actually got one woman and her children away to a secret place where they put them for 6 months to get away. Because I used to do speaks as well about like being abused and losing my boy for it and everything. So it's being able to express that out. And as I said, if you just help one person, but I've never really spoken like this about the first time was with Lexi privately. I've never done this before, didn't expect this was a shock to come on tonight actually, and just like see you talking about it, and it was like, all the memories start
I saw
flowing
the
back.
emotions on your face, and I also saw the emotions on Bonnie's face when she was listening to your story. And of course, I've been talking about it from a guy's perspective, and we don't really hear about it from men, because there's
But they do. But there is so many men that get abused by women as well.
and
you wouldn't believe it, but it happens.
And he just doesn't understand it. He's constantly like, why isn't she, respecting me? Why doesn't she understand? It's like he can't grasp that that's happening. But then when I say, okay, look at what's going on, she's alienating, there it is, Bonnie. Alienating you from your environment. You're not allowed to have contact with your ex. You're not allowed to have contact with your children. You're not allowed to look at any other women or speak about them. When you go to the beach, you're not allowed to look. He literally said, I was staring at my big toe at some point when I was on the beach, because I didn't know what to expect when
he looked up.
Look at another woman. So Zen is on here too, and
Hi, Zen.
About people.
Hello. How's everybody?
Personality.
Not too bad.
It's so nice to see Chicky Joe.
Hello.
Hello, Bonnie. How are you? And Terry's bookshelf and Lady Lexi.
Terry's bookshelf. I was just going to comment that Joe and I are both bundled up in our blanket.
Yeah, I'll just put this.
Yuko Mama's in the house. Rose is in the house.
Yes,
it's nice to see so many people.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, it's nice.
Guys, I miss you guys. It's been one of those days again. So I only can stay for a little bit because I have a show to go do. I gotta go. I got a show to make up for today, and I have another show tomorrow. But I just want to come in and got home and got myself situated. I said, okay, let's go do the show. I said, hold on, I wonder if Lady Lexi is on. And because I know you wasn't feeling well before. I'm like, look at her. I said, I bet she's on. She's probably still hurt in pain and still doing the show because she's a trooper like that.
Yeah.
So
He is.
Well, I'm tired. That's the thing. I'm
Yeah.
very tired because I've been emptying my mom's house. Tomorrow will be the transfer to the new buyer, and my brother actually caught COVID.
wow.
So that means that I have to do certain stuff that he can't do. So we've been trying to avoid one another when we would be at the house. So I would be there early on the day, and then he would come in later, and open all the windows so that by the time I get in again, I won't be affected by. But he's wearing a facial mask, and so am I, because of the allergic reactions I've been encountering when I'm in that house. Actually, I don't know if you can see it, but if you see my hands, you can actually see there's my fingertips are actually opened up, which is the result.
These two ladies are all. But I should get me a blanket. I should get a. Well, I don't need a. I'm sweating here. Okay, but I'm gonna stay for a few minutes because guess what? I just checked my channel and my thumbnail is not even up. So what am I even talking about? So I gotta go fix the thumbnail, put it up on my channel, then go do the show. So in the meantime, I'm gonna hang out with you guys and kind of multitask. And I have an idea what I want to talk about.
Well, 50 minutes
here's the idea. Here's the idea. Nobody has done this before. This is cool. No one has done it. At least I haven't heard anyone phrase it this way. And then I'm going to do my show. I'm not saying spontaneous, off the cuff, because I know the info. So I'm just going to do it off the cuff. Not make it up as I go, but just make it look like I already know that I already prepared. It's prepared here, but we're not talking. It all comes to me. But the name of the show tonight that I'm going to do, I'm about to create a quick flyer for it. I mean, a thumbnail. It's going to be called, tonight's business, right? Oh, yeah. The art. Okay, let me finish that thought. You guys go ahead. Oh, goodness gracious. Okay,
well,
I'm just smiling because like 4 months ago, you had to have this stuff planned out like 4 weeks in advance just to go live. So I'm super proud of you.
It's like going to one of those, and I've been in these situations several times. You go to see someone speak, or even back in the day when you used to do stand-up comedy, or even as a motivational speaker, you go see your boy speak or someone speak, and they're on stage doing their thing and say, yo, Zan, the manager, Zan, come up on the stage and say a few words for the people. You're like, okay. And you just have to go up there and you're like, you know what, guys, I got 3 seconds based on what he just said. I got, you add to what he said, get a mic back to him. Or if you're doing comedy, come on, they want you to come up and tell a joke, and you better be funny too, because he just, and then, but it's cool though, because when I used to perform, for Disney, I want to see my other friends perform in band, because bands know bands. And you go hanging out at the Bar Marley Club, or you go into the Universal, whatever, studios, and they're performing, they want you to come up on stage and do a song. So it's for me, I've done so many of these. It's just, what's the idea? What's the concept? The framework is already there. I just didn't write it out. So whenever I have an idea, the framework comes to my mind right away. Okay, and I know 2 or 3 points I want to get across. Then once you start getting into it, it just happens. So right here on the spot, good, you guys inspired me. Mary's in the house. Come on now. So I'm about to create this right now on the spot and then go do this thing. So let's do it. Let's do it right. Real time.
That's so awesome, Zan. I actually got caught.
You guys inspired the heck out of me. So let's go, Zan. I'm going into camera right now.
There you go.
Yeah, Mary, everyone is doing fine. Just a little bit emotional. We were talking about a very sensitive topic. That's an understatement, I suppose. And I guess I stirred up some things on both on Bonnie's side and on Joe's side as well. When I was talking about one of my clients, he's actually a guy, and he was dealing with a partner with narcissistic personality disorder, and she was able to alienate. I'm learning it. Him from his family, his friends, the people in the village, and I'm so proud of him because he actually it took him a while before he broke up with her. And I can't tell him break up with her, because that's not going to work. He needs to experience it himself, and conclude that he's going to do it. But he just couldn't believe that she wasn't the person he was expecting her to be, until of course Terry, we noticed. So thank you for having been on here. So Terry said before, like, okay, I keep people accountable. What I was sharing actually was it's kind of hard to keep this client accountable, because of everything that's happening. He became addicted to, and of course first he didn't realize it, but I saw it just happening, that he was drinking more and more just to numb himself. And of course when he's drinking, he's not eating, and then the next day he feels worse off. And so yeah, but Terry's right. Of course it starts always being accountable. But the question, of course, is um, can you be accountable, as in because you want to believe that that person really means well. And of course, both Bunny and Joe, you were pregnant, and those were reasons to say, okay, I need to change something. And I know in Joe's case, it was because the police officer actually said to you, you need to go, otherwise you won't make it at all. So, Bonnie, I know you actually quit yourself. You decided to leave. But what was the trigger which made you leave? Was it someone in your surroundings? You
No, the trigger literally was the fact that I went in the baby's room. My oldest was like 4 months old, and he came at me in there in the baby's room, and the baby he was asleep. But to me, I was in the frame of mind, even when I was growing up and like watching my sisters or watching other people's kids, I was like, you can do whatever the hell you want to do to me, but you're not touching these kids. Like, that was my line. And so when he came in the baby's room and picked me up on my throat, once I got free, I was like, F this. Like, you're not. I'm like, granted, he was a baby and he was basically asleep, but they still experience that stuff on some level. And even at 21, I knew 22, 21, 22, I knew that not that what he was doing to me was in any way, shape, or form good, but I knew that by staying, I was allowing him to have a negative effect on the baby. And so for me, that was the last straw. Like, I scooped him up and literally like left the house with nothing but him. Like I said, ran barefoot. And at one point, I did almost go back. We had been working on things, and he was, seeing a therapist and stuff. And I was staying with some friends.
Can I do this thing up here?
Yeah.
What?
It's fine.
Okay.
So I was, and anyways, and he almost got me to go back because everything seemed even keel. And I was super lucky because something happened and I did something that he didn't quite agree with, and he lashed out at me while I wasn't like in our home. Like it was somewhere else, and there were people who weren't there, but they were up, so they heard what was going on. And actually, I'm gonna take that back. That did happen, but a few weeks prior, I went to the house to get some things, and I was dropped off, and I called the friend that I was staying with, and he like completely flipped out and started. So I dropped. That's when phones were still attached to the wall. So I dropped the receiver, and he must have thought that they got disconnected or whatever. And my friend on the phone overheard all the whole commotion, and he wasn't doing anything to me at that point. He was just smashing the crap out of stuff. And I say just, but anyways, my friend sent her husband to my house, and he kicked the door in. And so again, there was a couple of points of time where I was like, oh, maybe this is going to be okay, and maybe we can fix things, because I grew up with a 2-parent household. Like my mom and dad were together, and I was, in my mind, that's kind of how things were supposed to be, right? And so I wanted, like the gentleman you're talking about, I wanted to believe that these were isolated incidences and it was going to stop, but it became very clear that the only way it was going to stop is if I left or if he killed me. And so because of having, my son, I was like, I'm out of here. But notice that time I had a group of friends and people. They were actually older than me, about 10 years older than me. I used to babysit for them. They took me in and let me stay with them, which is why at that point in time, I felt okay to leave. Whereas before, when I didn't feel like I had anywhere to go, I felt like I had to stay and kind of endure that, because I didn't know that there were options, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. And that's what my client said. He said, I'm going to be all alone.
That's codependency. That's what I wanted to bring up before. Yeah.
And then, of course, that's exactly what they do. I mean, they take away just about anyone from you. So you feel isolated, and then you depend on them. And that's of course the whole trick. But now he's realizing actually that opposite is true. So she is the one who people don't like, and people are actually now opening up to him. Because they see that he does make contact instead of avoiding other people. And that's, of course, when you talk about isolation, I mean, if you don't dare to speak to anyone else because you're being told those are bad people, or you might get repercussions, I mean, that's the hard thing. Zen, you want to chime in for a sec? Maybe about people who this happened to, or
Are you speaking of domestic abuse?
well, basically about dealing with partners who have narcissistic personality disorder and making you feel small and isolate you from your total environment. So up to a point that they actually break you down and you don't believe in yourself anymore. So I was talking about my client who actually, he only wanted to numb himself. And I said to him, you can't do this because you've got 2 teenage children. And there will be a time when they have children of their own. And then if you're not around anymore.
Is your client male or female?
My client is male.
Wow. This does happen. Man, this is across the board. Male and female. Based on my research, I've personally never experienced anything like this, but even before I got into the coaching business, I knew people in the entertainment business, things happen, right? And it happens on both sides, but it seems, No, it's no seams. It's predominantly happen more on the male side than the female side. Females can manipulate and isolate men too and get them away from their friends, things such as that. But when it comes to the violence, that's heavily on the male side than the female side. Even in society, throughout history of human beings, men have more violence streak than women do. We know women can be violent too, but not like men. And when you go back to NPD, which is we call narcissistic personality disorder, and all the ranges of that, that comes from a place of what we used to call megalomania, really having a God complex. So this person feels superior, that you have to, they almost go by this MO of, if I can't control you, I will destroy you.
Yes.
If I can't have you, nobody else can have you.
Yes.
And it's hard to explain to women. It's hard. It really is hard to explain to women that when a man is disrespectful to you, violently disrespectful, follow me, there's different forms of violence. He can, before a man is physically violent towards you, he's going to be verbally violent towards you. And when there's verbal disrespect and verbal violence, there's threats before the actual physical thing happens. And they know, and the men, they know the consequences. They know they can go to jail. They know, so there's, well, for me, I don't advise a lot of people in this area, but when I used to have these conversations with, and this is younger, when I was in my younger years, with younger women in their 20s, okay, who would have to deal with these hotheads, whether they just had a bad temper, drinking, drugs involved, or just whatever, insecure. A lot of issues can go on around that. And we didn't call it NPD back in those days, but that's what it was. And it's so prevalent now because we live in a narcissistic culture, whether people like that or not. This America is a narcissistic culture. So people grew up in this. They've been raised in this, and they normalize it. But that's what we're in. But when you're dealing with a guy, because I've seen it happen with teenagers and 20s, people in their 20s. When he started becoming verbally disrespectful, because disrespect always leads to violence, you have to cut it off and leave him alone. Now, some guys pursue that regardless, but it's the women, and it's hard to explain it to them. They don't want to because they're so emotionally invested. Sometimes they give their body over to the guy. They're invested, they don't want to let it go because they're so invested. But for your future, you have to let it go. And then it's even heavier when you have kids. You have to do it for the kids. I think Bonnie kind of referred that a little bit. And so if you can't do it for yourself, you do it for your kids. But this is more for older women. But young women, it's hard because their self-esteem is so wrapped up in it because he has a way of degrading them and making them feel like they're nothing and making them feel inferior. And then it's that God complex, being superior. So she feel like you can't do better without me. You can't, you nothing. But in the community I grew up in, they had brothers, they had uncles, and we would go handle that. We don't need to call the cops. So if someone dated my sister or my cousin, because I grew up around all females, the guys knew she better not come back here crying, dude, because me and my boys, we looking for you. And so we put fear in them. And you better not put your hand on her, we're gonna put all these paws on you. That's how I grew up. So the woman in my life never had to deal with that. Also, the woman in my life will go upside your head. If you put the guys knew it's a death sentence. Now, look, I'm not saying anything. I'm just sharing you my experience. They don't have that now. But men need to know there are consequences. If their fear is not placed inside them, they will feel like they can get away with anything. Now you have some guys out there who are just gone off the deep end and they don't care about being punished. But most men, the fear has to be placed in them, that fear of punishment, to stop them from doing dumb stuff. And if they can isolate you, then they don't have to fear the repercussions.
Yeah, so here's the question, of course.
Go ahead. You guys
maybe I should let Bonnie get into it and Joe, because they've experienced firsthand. But the thing is,
and by the way, guys, I'm speaking. They're gonna speak. They can speak more deeply about this. I'm speaking as a definitely outsider.
Yeah, but I like what you're saying.
I don't.
What I want to add to it is Joe told me that she was very good at hiding it for an environment, and it wasn't until she actually spoke out that her brother and her father actually, got to beat up the guy.
Yeah, but let me see if Joe or Bonnie want to touch on this. But this is why, guys, respectfully, this is why relationships are so important, and the connection has to be there, and the collaboration has to be. It's like where there's no judgment, there's compassion, there's love, there's no shame, there's no guilt. So you can come forth and say something, because sometimes they're holding in to protect the other person, or the shame and the guilt. Oh my God, they're gonna think I'm bad at me. It's like, no, we love you. We got to protect you. And so we kind of had that in the family, because no one touches you. No one. Or he's not here no more to touch anybody else.
It's okay saying that, because I was 21 when it happened, and my dad always used to say, no man would ever touch any of you girls. I tell you, but when you're in that situation, being female, were more that, but I still hid it all, even though I knew that I would have had the support, because literally when my little boy died and I got away from him, my dad and brother literally found him and just beat the crap out of him, and basically warned him if he would ever come near or by, he wouldn't see life again, basically. But I still hid it for 3 years, and I was hospitalized 3 times. But the last time was the last straw, because I had broken rib, fractured eye socket, I had bruises, bites, I had everything. And in the end, it was my friend that literally did get me away from it, because I probably would have stayed with him if it hadn't been for her.
And it's so hard, because women have their own reasons why they stay, whether it's love, or I want to protect them, or I don't want to, shame them. It's such a myriad of different reasons. And listen, I don't know how this sounds, but a lot of people try to say, oh, she don't have no self-esteem, she don't love herself. No, and I don't think that's true all the time, because they do. Sometimes they can be so much in love, or want to protect the family, or keep the family together. It's a lot of different reasons. And for me, I don't like to judge it, because we don't know a person's journey. And people judge it sometimes really harshly. Like, how could you? You don't know. You don't know. And I don't know. Like I said, I'm
I guess there's the whole grooming process, and then of course isolating and making them dependent on you. So Bonnie, I noticed you wanted to say something.
Yeah, I was, and I'm drowsy, and now I forget exactly what I was.
How far, Bonnie? I'll probably be way off on this. How far off am I on this?
Yeah.
Oh no, I am no. It wasn't something to disagree with you, at all. It I I don't remember. I'm gonna end up remembering. But another thing that I wanted to talk about is sometimes there's a lot of shame in being in that situation, because part of you is like, like your inner being is going like, what the hell are you doing? Like, you don't, this is not good for you. And you're kind of grappling with yourself going, if I could just get, if he could just,
You're right.
you just want things to go back to, like I said, this came out of nowhere. Like there was no verbal, like I was in a situation when I was with this person initially. Now I couldn't have went to go stay with this person, but there was an older African-American gentleman. He actually reminds me a little bit of you, Zan, who was about 15 years old. No, listen to my neighbor.
Okay.
Next door to me. He was about, a little 10, 15 years older than me. And I used to work as a waitress. And for whatever reason, I was always coming home hungry. Like I was so broke that I was not eating at work. And so literally like 4 or 5 days a week, he would hear me come in the apartment building door and he'd throw the door open and be like, "Did you eat? Come in here and eat something." And he would feed me. And so when all this stuff was going on, several months and months and months later, obviously, it was like part of me wanted to tell him what was going on, but part of me felt like embarrassed or ashamed that I was even kind of letting any of it happen in the first place. Like it was a very strange place to be in. And on top of that, being pregnant, like newly pregnant, and then going, "Oh, well, I'm kicking this guy out." In my mind was like, I was the one who was doing something wrong, And so, yeah, there's a lot of different reasons, but I think all of it boils down to fear in one way, shape, or form, whether you're afraid of being found out, whether you're afraid of the shame or the guilt or the judgment, whether you're afraid of the person coming back and doing something else, whether you're afraid of what your parents are going to say, like all of these different things. And you're kind of in your mind weighing like what's worse. And for me, the judgment from my father at that point was worse for me than putting up with what was going on. And so that was part of why I kept quiet, is because I also knew I couldn't go home.
Well,
so,
now, can I say this? Now it's so complicated now. Let me let Bonnie finish first, because I don't feel like I don't want to be Kanye West right now. I'm gonna let you finish. I'll go ahead and finish.
No, it's okay. It was just like I said, it was interesting that the support, like I felt supported by these people in one way, but then felt alienated from them in another way, because I didn't want to admit that this was happening like in my life. So there were certain people I didn't feel like I could go to. And my parents had already turned me away once, a couple of years before that. I'm not telling that story again right now. So I was like, I can't go home. I can't go here. I can't go there.
Right.
So yeah.
That probably sniff it out that you're vulnerable to begin with, so that it's easy to isolate you.
Yeah,
I know they have this sensor, this radar for it. So Mary said,
can I say this last part? This was this is now fast forward to today or modern times. This is where it gets really, really complicated, and it's almost like the pendulum has swung, because before it was 100% women are victims, 100% women are being violently abused, 100%, 100%, 100%. Now the pendulum has swung so far the other way, and we all know that with, with the Me Too movement and different things, and we know there's been plenty of cases that have shown that women have made false accusations against men. And so when they say, "Oh, believe all women," well, how can you believe all women when women do lie? They make stuff up. They do stuff for revenge. They do stuff. A guy went on a date with her and he didn't call her the next day, or he didn't want to have a relationship with her, or whatever. And it's like, okay, I'm gonna destroy your career. I'm gonna destroy your. So now it's so muddied and it's so complicated. Then you add more complications to when you look at, alternative relationships, because they had like the girls on the women's basketball team, they said stuff and this and that, and they come out later. And then you look at what's the measurement of punishment, because even when they found out, oh, she lied, like Brian Banks, she lied, or the lacrosse team, those guys, there's no punishment, because the guys get punished, but the women never get punished. So now it's like it's so out of whack. before it almost seemed like it was a black and white case. We can like, okay, now who knows what? And people are sharing stories now that they're coming out with stories now of someone who's been dead 10 years ago. It's like it's like, wow. So who's to say who's saying what? And what do you draw the line? How do you? So I'm like, wow. And like I said, in the very beginning of me speaking, I don't know this stuff. I just know what I came up with. And so everyone's story is valid. And then someone has they thought what they remembered back in the day. It wasn't the way it was because the other person, we never get the other person's side of it. We just get one side of it. So,
well, if I
complicated.
you just said, if I just take my client's story, he, of course, he didn't hit her, but at some point, and you were talking about the cult complex, she was literally looking at him in the eye, and she started smashing all the windows. And she was looking at him like, dare to hit me. I challenge you to do something to hurt me. And he didn't, which is awesome. I mean, kudos to him. But he said, at that moment, I was so afraid of her because she was, she was making me like she wanted me to hit her and to hurt her. And because, of course, then she could have said this, that, and the other. But instead, he kept his cool and he said, now you need to leave. And that's what she didn't expect. And of course, when that happened, she had to regain her ground again. And she's been trying to, and she almost succeeded. And then when he told me, I was like, oh, did you forget what she did to you? Maybe we should recall what you have told me. So I just,
what about?
I said, okay, you told me that she always looks at you for food, for whatever it is, for her smokes. You need to pick her up. You need to drive her back home again. So what again did she do for you? And that made a whole difference. So I want to go into what Mary said just for a sec. So she said, again, what you said too, Zen, when they know that there's a support system, there's like a limit they can go with their violence. But again, it's like, do you dare showing and telling other people about it? And she also says when there's no support system, they can be very violent. And of course, like Zen, you said, there is this thing called prison time. But Joe can actually share a little thing or two about that. Doesn't really work.
Yeah, this is complicated. This is very, very difficult because there's so many things, there's so many moving parts. Because you could say on the surface, "Hey, so when they just leave," or what? It's not simple. It's and like today, it's even more complicated. And I do think most of the weight lands on the guy's side, on the male side versus the female side. There are females that when you was explaining your story just now about your client, I know females who would go upside the guy's head or just get up in his face or jump on his back. And then when he reacts, oh my God, he's the violent one, when really that is abuse that you just did to him, but it's not perceived. Like I said, this is so muddy and messy. This can go so many different ways because I'm not saying we know this is not right, okay, but I remember a time that women, I think even today, they still feel justified. Certain groups of women still feel justified that if a guy says something that she don't like, or if he calls her a certain kind of name that starts with a C or a B or a H, she feels justified in hitting him. Now, he's just spoke out his mouth, verbal violence, right? As far as she's concerned. And she was physically violent, and she felt, and the other girls like, oh yeah, you justified for hitting him or slap him because what he said. Not he didn't touch her, what he said. and they feel justified in physically attacking him so it's complicated.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be totally honest on that point. My ex, we were
This is live, Bonnie. Be
both-
careful. This is live.
it's okay. We were both drinking. One of my friends was here. This was years and years and years ago. And I've only ever actually punched somebody twice in my entire life. And one was as like a kid, a young teenager, I think. And I was defending a friend of mine. But this guy told me all these horrible, horrible stories about his ex-wife and all the things that she did and things that she wouldn't do and how she didn't take care of the kids, blah, 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 blah. And he had the nerve one night to call me his ex-wife. And I flat out with the instinct punched him right in the mouth.
Ooh, no, he didn't.
And I was like, and then I ran and hid because of my past history and experience with that kind of stuff. I literally ran and hid.
Y'all
Was like, oh crap, what did I just do? But it was, I'm not saying it was justified, but it was definitely an instinctual kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, how dare you? And it wasn't even all the other stuff he said about her. It was the fact that he was talking about the fact, he had talked about the fact that she did not take care of nor care for her kids. And I'm like, how dare, like you, that's why I said this thing, the common theme for me is don't question my love for my kids. Don't question my ability to take care of them. Don't bring anything near them that's going to cause them harm, like full on mama bear mode. And yeah, I clocked him and I didn't knock him out, but I knocked him over.
Ooh,
and I'm not super proud of that, but it was like,
but
in my reaction to kind of count, like what you were saying, I've seen a lot of that. I grew up around a lot of that.
I think you guys might forget this, but when I say it, you're going, oh, that, yeah. Listen, when this happened, men was like men, because we all talked about this. This is a while back in the 90s. Men were like terrified. Women were celebrating and laughing. Like, how could you? So, Lorena Bobbitt.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. You talk about getting violent.
Yeah,
that's a man's worst nightmare.
That was.
We used to, when I was growing up as a kid, teenager, whatever, we would hear women just casually say, "Kick him in the nuts." Like, it's like, and they laughed about it. Anyway, look, guys, this is a deep. You guys, look, I'm way out of my element. I'm gonna go back to what stuff.
Oh,
you're
doing
I'm
great.
I gotta get out of here.
Doing great.
I'm gonna get out of here. Man, I'm way out of my element. Come on now.
Yeah,
look,
but
I got a show coming up in 20 minutes. I'm gonna need to go take a little break. And you guys kind of help inspire not this show, but the next show tomorrow. And I was gonna do this anyways, but listening to you guys talk, I'm wondering what I can add more to the show for tomorrow to give it a little bit more juice. But you probably can't see this on my other computer, but the thumbnails are done. Okay.
I'm actually gonna be late tomorrow. I have an impromptu.
I'm glad if you even show up for 5 minutes as busy as you are.
I'm hoping you run late tomorrow because they scheduled it and everybody voted, and because they're all on California time, they picked 5 p.m. versus whatever time. And I'm like, you gotta be kidding me, guys!
No
I
worries.
literally have a standing appointment every week.
It's no,
but
worries.
It's a one-off thing, so I'm gonna try to come in. Hopefully, you'll still be on because it's only supposed to be like 45 minutes to an hour.
Tonight's show, just let you guys know, because some may be interested, some may not. But it's a business show. It's called. No one has done this title. I did the research on it too. The art. I'll tell you guys everything. Tonight's show is the art of online business. Then the next week's show is going to be the science of online. Because I think online business is an art and a science. So tonight's going to be the art of online business. Next week is going to be the science of online business. And tonight and tomorrow. Okay, so let me not confuse. Tonight's show is the art of online business. Tomorrow's show is called Believe in Yourself.
Nice.
That's gonna be woo. We gotta
You gotta pick the one night I'm not gonna beat. No, I'm just kidding.
and you know what? Let me. I give you. I got some really good things for tomorrow about believing in yourself. But let me give you guys the real straight up secret. At the end of the day, the secret of believing in yourself and how you know how much you believe in yourself, to the extent that you can be, believe, be you yourself. To the extent you can be you. Because a lot of times we admire people like, man, look, because they're so comfortable in who they are and they can be themselves. You know how much belief you got to have in yourself and not really care what other people think about you or try to live your life for other people, because you can be you. And that's BE of believe and you of yourself. So be you. And so I'm going to kind of craft some key points around to get people back to be you, believe in yourself. So that's gonna be tomorrow. That's gonna be more. I'm gonna let that marinate so I can have in my dream or whatever in the meditation in the morning. This point, that point. Okay, great. I'm gonna have all the points. So I don't even have all the points yet, but it'll come to me in the middle of the night. But tonight, I'm gonna kind of, in a way, not really wing it, but the art of online business, because it hasn't been done before. You can't do it wrong, right?
Hey, how about you send those angel guides over here and help me figure out all this stuff I'm trying to do in my sleep too?
But you have, Bonnie, you're one of the few people that I know. I don't know how you do it, because I'm telling you right now, I couldn't do it. You got this company going on. You have your own dreams and your own stuff. And you have your hubby and that relationship. And you got all the kids going on. And you got to deal with COVID this and COVID that and this and this and that. And then you just got, and then there's all these unexpected things that no one even saw coming. I don't know how you do it. I really don't know how you do it.
David says my superpower is adapt and overlap.
Adapt and over. I don't know how you do it.
It's adapting to things as they come, and a lot of that was
it'll drive me
survival
crazy
for a long time. But I've learned to use it as a strength and as I guess like a tool. And overlap simply means that, especially in the summertime. So just give you a quick example, because I know we're kind of off topic here, but in the summer of 2020, the kids were obviously home. They would have been home anyways, but I was learning how to sew. So I literally set a table and with like a plastic shower curtain around it so that I could sit at the picnic table outside and sew while the boys were swimming in the swimming pool. Because I was like, there's no other way for me to get all this sewing done, because I can't leave them in the pool by themselves. And so like I had to figure out a way. So I ran extension cords and did all this craziness.
You became inventive.
Dave was like, you're going to invent the first waterproof sewing machine or something. I don't know. But it's something that used to be a mechanism for survival has proven to have a lot of value and everything else. And it's really weird now as the number of kids are kind of going, like my last one will be going to school this year. And so it's going to be interesting. I had like an hour of complete like alone time yesterday, and it was the weirdest thing. Like, wow. It was so weird.
Wow. Did it feel
like almost emptiness syndrome?
It was so quiet, and it was like, what am I supposed to do?
Gosh.
You have freedom.
I had no meetings.
Freedom.
Yeah, no meeting. Nick, my oldest, was here, but he was asleep. He usually sleeps during the day. So it was just, I was sitting on the couch and I was just like, okay.
What are you
And then of course I sat there for like 10 minutes and I was like, I can't sit here anymore. I gotta go do something. So but anyways, that's the answer, is adapt and overlap.
Can I say see you guys later, because I'm gonna get out of here. Joe!
Yeah, I need to get out.
Okay. Anyway, you guys have been amazing.
She
Lady Lexi,
some comments too.
Was that Lady Lexi, Bonnie, Joe? I'm gonna get out of here right now. Mary, I'm gonna get out of here, and I'm gonna do this quick. Hey, come check me out in 10 minutes, whatever. And I'm gonna the art of what I call it, the art of online business. Okay, so let's go, Zan.
I'm going to probably join by phone. I am so drowsy right now. I've been waking up at 5:30 in the morning.
I'm going to tell you what.
On my own for some reason.
I shouldn't even tell you guys this. I'm about to go spend 5 minutes. Oh gosh, don't tell them. Okay, I'm about to go spend 5 minutes in my prayer closet and get the framework for this thing. It'll come to me. So I need to get out here so I can go in there and get, like shift and get that clarity and come back and do the show and give me a drink of water and go get some grapes so I can have some energy.
Go prepare
Thank you guys.
and thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
I noticed that Mary was, she's talking about the abuse, that it's sometimes mental and not physical at all.
Oh yeah.
Of course, true. It's so sneaky.
Yeah, it's yeah. I was reading her comments too, and that's super unfortunate. I don't, I'm not gonna say I don't have any experience with that, but my experience wasn't as I had a guy that actually cheated on me with my sister and got my sister pregnant. She was only 15 at the time. And for me, I flipped the F out. And it wasn't even, it goes back to this protecting the kids thing. Like, it wasn't even about what quote unquote did to me. I didn't care. And I went after him. I was like, how dare you? Like, do you have, like, that's not only is that illegal, but it's wrong.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that was probably the ultimate betrayal I have probably ever, beyond all the physical crap I went through. That right there was like the ultimate. And this guy didn't see anything wrong with what he was doing, which was like the worst part of it. And so, yeah, it was just a very interesting situation. Let's put it that way. So yeah, but it's different when you're married and involved and been together and all of that. Like the pain it's a different kind of pain.
Yeah,
for sure.
So if there's one thing that you could say that made you stronger, just to turn it into a more positive note, what would you say it is? And I noticed that Joe got a little bit lost. So, Joe, you want to talk about it first, or shall I ask Bunny first?
Ask Bonnie.
She
Because
looks
I know
sleepy.
she's tired. I'm tired too. I'm tired.
Yeah,
Slept,
yeah.
so.
I'm gonna watch Dan's show from the couch, probably brush my teeth and get snuggly. To be honest with you, what is the one thing about what happened that made me stronger? Is that what you asked?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just to end on a positive note.
Yeah, I mean, it was really the underlying part of that was just standing up for what I believed in. And had you asked me then, it would have probably been more something like instinct and saving, him, all these other things. But from what now looking back 20 some years after the fact, I think being able to say enough is enough. And this isn't like I deserve to be treated better. And kind of pulling my confidence out of somewhere in that mess and really just standing up for myself, basically. Like I said, I was standing up for the baby, but really I was standing up for myself. And I think though the whole experience makes you stronger. I know I kind of hate to say that. Like I don't want anybody to ever experience that. But honestly, once you go through something like that, there's a lot of things that you can encounter in situations that you can end up in. And you're like, this is nothing compared to what I've been through. Like, and not to downplay anybody else's trauma, but like in my own life, comparing my own situations to that, it was almost like you walk out of there once you start the healing process going like, I can handle anything. Like I had the shit beat out of me for 7.5 hours straight. I've lost teeth. I've like all these problems because of this. And like I walked out of there, and a lot of people unfortunately don't get to do that. And so you do kind of walk around with this subconscious back of the mind thing of, I can handle everything. Now, I'm not going to pretend everything was smooth sailing from that point on. It wasn't like the end of a movie where everything's like, woohoo, like where everything's good now. Like, that's not how that works. Joe, I'm sure you know how much you go through after the fact. But yeah, that's, I don't suggest anybody earning their strength that way, obviously. But yeah, it's, oh no, sorry. I'm starting to ramble. I'm getting sleepy, so I apologize.
So if you were to give someone who would be in that situation advice, what would you say?
First, I would. Oh, sorry, Bonnie.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. I've been talking.
No. Go on. No, it's all right. I'll go
okay. My
back.
advice, and it's so much easier said than done sometimes, is ask for help. And I feel like if you can get somebody to put their ego, and this isn't the kind of ego where you think you're better than everybody ego. This is ego. It's related to, fear, justification, shame, blame, all these, where you're separating yourself from somebody else. If you can put your ego aside for just a few minutes and try to be rational about the situation. And I know that's way easier said than done because I've been there. And just remind yourself that this is not good for anyone. And I need to do whatever it takes to remove myself from this situation. Whether that's running 16 blocks barefoot, whether that's making your way to a police station, whatever the case is, you have to put aside the fear of judgment and get help.
Yeah.
If not for your mental body, for your physical body, so something irreversible doesn't happen to you. Yeah, I know things are different where you're at and where you're at too, but I know here, I'm sure you guys have something similar. There's hotlines and different resources that you can call, even if you don't want to tell more.
There's a lot more now than when I was 21, because I'm 53 nearly.
Okay.
So it's a lot more understanding now than what it was back then. Because they didn't arrest many.
People need to know about it, and they need to be able to recognize the situation, because that's also Mary talks about being cut off from everyone, and that's basically the main thing. I mean, if they know how to manipulate you into a situation that you think it's your fault, then are you going to reach out to a hotline?
No, and I think you have to catch it way before it gets to that point. You have to be aware, and this is stuff they should be. And I know in our school, luckily, they do teach a class on this about. They actually have a teen domestic violence. I don't know what it's specifically titled, but a class to teach kids about the warning signs of this, so they don't find themselves so deep in a codependent, violent relationship that when they're noticing the early warning signs, they can get out before they're fully invested in the relationship and the situation. Because unfortunately, there are a lot of parents out there who would hear about something like, no, not my child. Oh, she wouldn't be involved. She would never let that happen. He would never do that. Like, they're so in denial about what their kids are actually doing, that the kids are afraid to reach out as well, because their parents are supposed to be the people that are taking care of them. And if they're the ones kind of denying or shaming them. So anyways, I just wanted to say that there are many, many, many more resources than there were, like you said, even 20 years ago, when I was dealing with this. And luckily even with the internet now, you can find this stuff anonymously on your phone, but again, the biggest piece of advice for me is try to catch it as early as possible.
Talk about it. Talk about it. So, Joe, would you say that what's one thing that's made you stronger because of this? What would it be?
I think once I got out, eventually did get out of the situation. Obviously, it took me quite a few years to pluck up courage and get my mental health sort of back on track, because that was one of the main things as well, which we suffer with after coming out of something like that. Losing my little boy, that was like horrendous. And having the people around me that loved me, that I knew were there, they gave me confidence. They started believing in me and saying, look, you learn to believe in yourself. You must learn to believe in yourself, which you have to make you feel that better. You've got to think right. And I keep telling myself, it wasn't my fault. It wasn't my fault. None of my fault. Him, he had the problem. And it took a while and everything, you know, but that gave me strength. Once I believed in myself and realised it wasn't my fault, I then got the strength, like, well, you know, I wasn't in the wrong. I did nothing wrong. I did nothing for him to abuse me like that, you know, and it just, and then my confidence did start getting hell of a lot stronger. And I think after meeting Keith, then I believed more that there is good people out there. There is good men out there. They're not all bad. Not all men are bad. Because I don't know how you felt when you left him. It was like, oh, is every man going to be like this? They're going to be nice at first. I don't know if you was on edge. You got into a relationship again, and was you sort of thinking if like they would moan or take you think, oh God, they're excited before. I don't know if you got that when you started in a relationship.
I'm gonna be
So I used to
honest.
get quite nervous.
I think for me, I was almost so good at hiding it from other people that I was just as good at hiding it from myself, which sounds kind of strange.
No, I know what you mean.
And so I didn't, because for me, that part of it, the physical part of it, was not continuous, and we weren't together. We were only together for maybe 18 months, 17 months, something like that. It wasn't a really long time. And so I really kind of got it in my head at the end that, like, you've got a serious problem. But a lot of what was going on was verbal. So those lashing out, they happened, but there was maybe a handful of times that it happened. It wasn't continuous for me, fortunately. But so yes and no. Like, I was on edge, but at the same time, I was able to, for the most part, isolate it as him, not everyone.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Which I know is sometimes that's not the, you know, residual effect, especially when it happens so young. A lot of people feel like everybody's going to be
everybody's going to be like it. Yeah. No, that's how I did at first, but then eventually, you know, I started to believe in myself, and then obviously I met my eldest two, their dad, and he wasn't like that. He was an abuse. He was fantastic, and it just didn't work out, you know. But we split up on good terms. It was nothing, you know. But I think basically, if people are out there that are going for it, they just really need to try and reach out to somebody, anybody. And, you know, as you said, there's phone numbers, there's internet now, there's so much you can do now, whereas before you couldn't. But I know it is hard, obviously, because as we know, when you're in that situation, it's not that easy.
That's what I said.
You know,
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I just think, you know, some people just find it hard to tell somebody, and the fear of, oh, what if I do and then they're going to kill me, if they've been threatened to be killed, you know what I mean, things like that. And obviously when you're being threatened that you're going to be killed and things, and I suppose really in their head they're like, well, if I say anything, life's over, you know, and they build that and they drum that into your head And that's what they do. They manipulate you, you know? They manipulate you so much to make you believe in, like, as they do, manipulate you to believe that you're the wrong one, not them. And they're so good at it, what they do. This is what so many women find it hard to actually get away from the situation. I think, yeah, it's just really basically try and reach out as much as you can to anybody, a message, a text, anything really, and tell somebody if you can. Somebody, there's always someone out there, someone always out there to help you no matter where. Always need to have that someone can be there to guide you, and if it's to help them get away and hiding, because now, obviously, I don't know, but here we have like shelters now. If it's that bad, they actually move you away with children. You're in a hiding. They put you in a location so far away that you end up moving there, and then you're probably trying to live a normal life away, which is quite sad sometimes because you're dragged away from where you're used to being around, the surroundings. But if it's to keep you and your kids safe, then be it. And having your kids around, watching you being abused, is not good for their environment either, because they're just going to be grown up around that, and they think that's the natural thing to do. And this is why a lot of people, kids, their children, boys, they copy because they think that's the normal life of living. You be abusive to someone, verbal, mentally, whatever, because it's not good for their environment. They don't need that. Children need to be away from it, and you just got to
Yeah.
protect them.
I think the one other piece of advice, and this kind of goes with what I said earlier, but these kinds of situations rarely get better, and that's why it's so important. They just don't usually get better. They usually only continue to get worse. And so that's why recognizing the early warning signs and the verbal abuse and getting out at that point.
Because people can get away. Look at you. You've got away.
Mm-hmm.
I think you've remarried, have you?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you got children. I ended up having 2 children from previous relationship. Then I met my loving husband, and we had our daughter. Unfortunately, he passed, which was hurtful, but at least I got them years with him.
Yeah.
So you can get away and have a better life. You've just got to really keep saying to yourself, I can get a better life. I can get away from it. It can happen. And there is people out there.
Yeah, I think it's easier to leave in the beginning before things.
Oh yeah, definitely.
In my experience being in other situations like that, they're less likely to it's almost like once there's that physical contact like that, something is triggered in them where they feel like they can't let you get away from them. But if you can get away before that happens, distance yourself, break up, do whatever you need to do. That attachment factor isn't quite as strong. And again, I'm not a scientist or a doctor or a therapist, but I've seen it in a lot of different situations where when you can get out before that.
Before it gets to the point where it's
physical, it seems like it's easier to get away, and they're less likely to try to track you down and get you to come back.
The thing that initially you were totally in love, and then you can't believe it. Is this really happening? Am I really being hurt? And then, of course, there are the excuses that you are actually starting to make for your partner. Oh, he or she must have, and that's the thing. They make you believe that it's you. And if you are a person who's good by nature, it's very hard to actually believe what's going on, to recognize and believe it. I mean, you can see it maybe, but really believing that this is happening, because it usually happens to good people.
Yeah, well, I think those, and the way it kind of works is those people are more easily manipulated because of the fact that they've got that good nature and believe in the good of people and are very forgiving, and this whole laundry list of attributes. So yeah, there's also people who are easier to control and manipulate, unfortunately, for various reasons. So yeah, I'm sure, and I don't know if this is something that they practice or something they're just innately good at, but they get really good at finding those people that they can
Yeah, they
manipulate
sniff it out.
easily.
They sniff it out.
Yeah. So, but this has been lovely. I am so drowsy that I'm gonna go wash my
Yeah,
face and
thank you
go to bed.
for sharing it. Thank you for sharing
Yeah, it's
your
lovely
and
speaking to you
being
again.
so open about it. So before we finish off, I just want to congratulate Jo on the fact that she managed to have 6,000 followers on her Instagram channel within 6 months.
Wow! Congratulations.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
I think that's worth mentioning. And yeah, like Mary said, just to get back for a sec, um, the second time you recognize it more easily, and I
Oh
guess
God, yeah.
um, that it's up to us as bystanders. And well, I haven't experienced it, but I've seen certain things that when we notice it, when it's happening to other people, that we actually encourage them, talk about it, even if you're not sure, but speak out about it and find help, find support.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So thank you, Bonnie, for being so candid, and Jo, you too. Any final words?
Not for me. I'm waiting on this impending ice storm, so I'm gonna take my blanket and brush my teeth and get comfy and wait for the mask to fall from the sky because kids are off school tomorrow.
Yeah.
So,
Any final words from you, Jo?
Uh, just hope whoever sits and listens to this and watches this can take, some advice, what we've been given. At least if it can help just one person, that's something, that's achievable. And just be, don't put up with the abuse, don't put up with anything like that. Just step out. As soon as you notice one sign, just go.
Yeah.
Best way forward. Just, and
As
try
soon,
and be happy.
yeah, as soon as you hear that people are telling you that others are not good for you, that should be like the first warning signal.
Mm.
So, um, yeah, okay. So, thank you all for watching this. And again, if you know people are in the situation or you are having doubts yourself, um, the moment that you start doubting yourself, and it's being said systematically that it's you and all you, then you know something is off. So make sure you talk to others about it, even if they say those others aren't good for you. And especially the ones you used to trust, go back to those people. And usually they're like childhood friends or maybe siblings. Talk to them and get your reference back in order, so you know what's right and wrong, because that's so mixed up. So okay, so I'm going to end this broadcast,